Hello everyone, welcome to this next YouTube video. Today we're going to talk about lining the ball up and why I think you should line the ball up. Let's get into the video. So there's obviously many reasons and benefits to lining the ball up. First reason, obviously, because it just makes it much easier for yourself to align to the putt and to your start line. Without any line on the ball, then you're sort of guessing, really. I suppose you can pick a point in front of the hole, but just having a line set down, marked towards your desired start line is going to make it far easier for you to just align yourself to that ball and hit a good putt. Also worth noting that you could have the best stroke in the world and be really solid when it comes to sort of your actual putting stroking technique, but if you're aligned wrong, then the ball's most likely going to miss. Alignment is probably the most important thing in putting, I'd say, because again, if you aren't aligned right, you're going to miss the putt unless you push it and pull it back online, which we don't want to try to do. I think it's definitely one of the best things for someone to do when they're putting, especially as it pretty much takes under 10 seconds to sort of, once you've picked your line, to just turn the line on the ball so it's facing your desired start line. I think for the sake of 10 seconds and getting low to just move it, it's definitely worth it. And most of the guys on tour, you'll see they have some method or another to line the ball up, whether they're drawing a line on the ball or they're using the line on the ball that's already printed, or you're using it with dots. There's a number of ways to sort of get your alignment set up. So I think if you're doing one of them methods, then you're definitely going to have and give yourself the best chance to hit a good putt and to hole it. Probably the most common thing I see is guys who don't line it up just because they feel like they can't trust the line or because they don't want to get down and do it for every single putt. But I think if you're 20 feet and in, you've definitely got to think about lining the ball up because these are holdable putts. And say if you're not aligned right, then you're most likely going to miss. Another reason to line the ball up is because if you get used to aiming left or right of the target, which can easily happen if you don't have a proper alignment tool, then if you get used to, say, aligning left to the ball, then you might feel like you're actually pulling it when you're realistically not. So then you could actually develop a push. Vice versa, if you're someone that aims right because you don't line it up, you may then think you're pushing it even though your stroke's actually good, so then you can develop a pull. So by not being aligned and not aligning yourself properly, you can then sort of develop poor tendencies, which then actually affect your technique. Instead of if you line the ball up straight on line and you know that you're aligned right, and if you miss it right or left, then you can correctly identify whether you've pushed or pulled the putt. So I think if you're someone that doesn't line the ball up, I definitely recommend getting to the habit of it. Even if you start by just doing 10-foot putts and in and then progress up to 20-foot putts and in and then progress up to every putt. Because I hear a lot of people say that they don't think it's worth lining it up if you've got a double breaker or a lag putt, but that isn't necessarily true because if you've got a 10-foot breaker left or right, it's much easier to then set that line right at that start line, right at the top of the slope, and then you don't really have to think about it from there instead of setting up to it, thinking like, oh, how far left should I aim, sort of thing, when you're set up over the ball. And when you're trying to sort of line yourself up, standing from side on, it's much harder to do this than to actually stand behind the ball and line it up this way instead of standing over it and trying to line it up that way, just because you're then standing side on instead of directly behind the ball. So whereas if you stand directly behind the ball, you can then put your line on the ball, and then when you actually set up to the putt, you can trust that line. And then when you're trusting the line, you're going to be much more committed to it, which means you're going to put a much better stroke on the putt. Now, if you're someone who lines the ball up already but has trouble with lining the ball up because you set up to it and you've realised when you're actually over the ball, that line's not where you think it should be, my advice to that would be to always trust your judgment when you're standing behind the putt and you're lining up instead of trusting the judgment from over this point here. Because if it looks funny from this angle, it's probably something to do with your eye position or your head alignment. Whereas if you stand behind the ball and you pick a point, you know it's good from there, then just try and trust that. Because again, you're going to commit to the stroke and you're going to put a much better putt on the ball. So let's hit some putts now, and I'm going to put a few different lines on the ball just so you can have a good example in your head on how your line should look. Let's get into it. Cool, so here we have some different examples of lines on the ball. This one you can use, so if it's going to be a line like that, we can use this top line here to line the ball up as your sort of start line alignment. And then you can use this line here to align your sort of face to the ball as well. So you got a little double one going on there. Another sort of ball I like is the Callaway. The way that they do their triple track's really good because you've got your 3 lines there. So when you line it up straight, it's much easier. So once you've picked your point, using them lines to line up them with your putter is obviously really important as well. Something like the Pro V has just got something with the red line in the middle, so it's only got the 1 line. Again, that's really good. But I'd always recommend, if you're not using these style of balls, to always put some sort of mark on it, just so it makes it just a bit clearer. So say for example, here you have your ball, you've lined it up, you've picked your start line. Now all you need to do is make sure the lines on the putter match up to the ball. And then once you've done that, align your feet and your shoulders with the lines you can see there. And then from there, you can trust that you're fully aligned to the putt. So then from here, you can really commit to it and it should go in. There we go, just like that. So I hope you enjoyed that video on lining the ball up. Please try it, give it a go, because I really think it's going to help you out when you get on to the greens. And if you can like and subscribe, that would really help me out as well. I'm going to be rolling these videos out weekly, so any sort of suggestions you have, drop them in the comments and I'll get back to you. But yeah, I'll see you guys next week.